this video is just a really quick recap of why you only need 2 points to find slope of a linear line. So remember, it's useful to remember that linear just means straight, okay? And recall that linear lines have a constant unchanging slope, okay? The slope for a particular line will always be the same regardless of what 2 points you use that exist on the line. And this is useful because similar fractions, okay? So this sometimes does create a bit of confusion, but it is important to remember that we can represent slope in multiple different ways, and this is the same slope, okay, because of similar fractions. So like 3 over 2, that is the exact same slope as 6 over 4, because if we multiply both these numbers by 2, well, 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. Here, we could also multiply 3 by 3 and get 9, 2 by 3 to get 6. So these are all the same slopes. All the same slopes. It's because they all have similar fractions, okay? Now, we usually, for mathematics, represent our slope in simplest form. So if you end up getting 6 over 4, you just simply simplify it to 3 over 2. So let's quickly do similar fractions equal similar slopes. So determine 3 different ways you can represent the slope of the following graphs. Circle the slope represented in simplest form. So again, we already know how to find slope pretty easily. Find 2 points, and then ask yourself, what is the rise? And we're going to divide that by the run. Okay, and that's our slope. So in this case, how do I get from this point to this point? Well, I have to go over 1 unit to the right. So that'll be positive 1 unit right. And then I go up 2 units, positive 2 units up. So here, my rise is positive 2 units. My run is positive 1 unit. So that can equal 2. That would be my simplest form of my slope. But recognize I could represent this slope also as 2 over 1, and I can actually represent this if I multiply these both by 2 as 4 over 2. And let's check if that works. So if we choose here, well, in this case it says go up 4 units. So I'm going to go up 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4 units up. And now I'm going to go 2 units to the right, 1, 2. And look at that, I end up at the same, or another point on my line, okay? What happens if I multiply 2 over 1 by, let's say, 3? Well, that's going to give me 6 over 3. So in this case, this is 6 units up, 3 units right. So let's see if that works. Let's maybe choose this point and see what happens. If I go 6 units up, well, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is 6 units up. And then it says to go 3 units right. So 1, 2, 3 units right. And it looks like we end up on another point. So it's super important to understand that we usually represent in simplest form, but slopes for a line can be represented in different ways because of similar fractions. Okay. So let's maybe look at this last one here. And if you want to quickly pause the video and copy down what we've written, rewatch, because this is really important to understand moving forward. Let's look at this one though. So here, again, choose 2 points to focus on. Maybe I'll choose these points and recognize your scale. Every tick for your horizontal is actually 3 units. Now, how do I get from this point to this point? Again, it'll be rise over run. So let's figure out my rise. Well, to get from here to here, I have to go down 1, 2 units. So down 1, 2 units. So negative 2 units down. Okay, so this would be -2 for my rise. And then for my run, remember each tick is 3 units, so this will be 3, 6. So in total, this is 6 units right. And since we're going right, it'll be +6, so +6. So recognize that's one way. That's not my simplified version though. These both are divisible by 2, so I can make it -1 over 3. So that's my simplified version. Okay. And recognize either one works. Let's see if this makes sense. So this is saying every 1 unit down, go 3 units right. Let's see if that works for my graph. So I start here, I go 1 unit down, so that's down 1, and then 3 units right, which is a whole tick. And it looks like I do in fact end up on my graph, okay? So we have one way to represent our slope. We have our simplified version. Let's write one more, and I could represent it something like this. So let's go -1 over 3. Let's actually multiply it by a negative number this time. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to multiply it by -3 and -3. So that's going to give me -1 times -3, which will give me +3. 3 times -3, which gives me -9. Okay, and from there, now this is changing it up a little bit. This is 3 units up, go 9 units left. Because remember, now my bottom is negative, but it will still work. Let's maybe choose this point here. Well, if I go 3 units up, that'll be 1, 2, 3. And if I go 9 units to the left, well, this is 3, 6, 9. So it actually ends up working. So this is 3 units up. And this would be 9 units left. And remember, that's because our negative can float, right? So if I have -1 over 3, which is my simplified version, this can float and go on the bottom, in the middle, or the top. So we could just represent our simplified version also as simply -1 over 3. And there's our slope. Okay, so remember, our slopes can be represented in a multitude of different ways because of similar fractions. Very, very important to understand and be able to utilize. If you have any questions, come in and ask.